I know that for him, he was always on to the next. He didn't hold on to anything. You know what I'm saying? He kind of let it all go at some point. Like, this batch of beats is cool. And I think it bothered him the most because people would call him about something he did 3 months ago. And he would be like, man, they want this old ass beat. I don't even want to fuck with this beat right now. It's like old to me. Like, because he had moved on 3 or 4 steps from where he was to where where he was going in that time.
Get on one page and he would conquer that, he would be satisfied, and then he would move on to the next, and he wouldn't look back. It was always no looking back with Jay. Like, I did that, I'm done with it. Let's go 5 years ahead.
He was very good at knowing when he had played enough cards for one sound, and enough people were copying him at that point that it was time to switch it. And so he was trying new things out, and he wanted to go more lo-fi, muffly. I love that he kept saying that. More like a cassette,
But, at around that time, he'd put out the Rough Draft record. So he'd kind of made a statement, at least to, the people that were paying attention to that vinyl-only release, that, he was kind of taking a left turn.
But he's one of those dudes, you can take any record. I know Erykah Badu tells a story of, like, he would just say, like, pick any record, I'll make a beat out of it. And he was one of them dudes. Like, it was like, he needed the history of recorded sound, but within that, if it was a 29, it could be rare or it could be not that rare.
He took from all sources. I mean, he would take from techno records, and he would take from like really obvious artists, but maybe a song that they didn't know, and then he would take from obscure stuff too. But I don't think he was like really like he would take from the Bee Gees or from whatever. It wasn't all about like, oh, it's got to only be something rare.
When Dilla grabbed that Stereo Lab beat, I remember at the time, B Plus was the one hipping us to. He's like, man, you guys aren't listening to Stereo Lab? I'm like, man, that's the shit that the fucking kids at my college radio station listen to. Like, I'm playing boom bap hip hop, man, or funk. And he's like, you should check this out. And I was like, fuck, man, Stereo Lab? And Dilla was grabbing from much more current stuff than that, right? So he was grabbing from everything, and Madlib was the same way. Like, I remember first time I saw like a Vincent Gallo record in Madlib's like to be sampled stack. I'm like, you're sampling Vincent Gallo? But it all made sense because it's just like, no boundaries, that was just the way those guys worked.
One thing I did laugh about was him like, I gotta find this hand clap, and then go into the closet, and he had a record, he already knew exactly the record, yeah, it's got a ill hand clap on it, and then he sampled it up.
He thought like how you hear about Amadeus Explained, how he would just have everything mapped out in his head before he even composed a note on paper. Dilla was the same way. He had the whole thing mapped out in his head before he even got going. We'd sit there for 15 minutes doing drops on a song, and it would just be, okay, right there, next bar, drop out the kit. Next 4 bars later, drop out the bass, yep, right there, but bring it in right before the hi-hat, yep, that's it, and move to the next 8 bars. He would just go through it like a railroad, man. He would just cut through it, and it was amazing watching him work because I could barely keep up with just the Pro Tools operating.
80 to 90% of all these joints that people have heard, 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes tops. The first beat I ever saw him make was Get a Hold off of Beats, Rhymes, and Life. And that's when he was working in the back room at R.J. Rice's studio in Southfield. And it probably took him about 12 minutes to make. And he was getting frustrated. Like, he was getting frustrated on the drums, like, damn. And he finally got him, and then just to chop the loop up and then put it on top took him like 2-3 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes with the plugins and Pro Tools, things would get a little out of sync between my system and his system, because I had a TDM system and he had an LE system. This is kind of technical stuff, but things would fall out of time because the plugins wouldn't be exactly the same between our systems. And he would be sitting on the couch and he'd be like, something fell out, and he'd go, move the bass back 2 baby hairs, and so I'd nudge the bass, and that's good. Move the snare back 1 baby hair. Okay. Now the vocals, move them all back 3 baby hairs. I'm trying to interpret what baby hairs are, but I'm going ahead and doing it. Okay, what do you think of that? Yeah, cool. 1 more baby hair. Cool. He's like, that's it. And sure enough, you listen to it, and the whole beat, like, it felt like a little crooked beforehand, before he got his hands on it and his ears on it. But by the time, exactly 1 minute later, everything was time aligned without him having to sit at the board and do it himself, you know. But he just had crazy ears. He could sense timing very, very accurately and zero in on the stuff very quickly and fix it.
He was always like giving us beat tapes, and he was making kind of jokey names for them. One of them was like Pizza Man, and one was Donuts, and it was always like this unhealthy food and stuff. But Donuts was one of them, and I just remember it was me and Madlib and him in the car, and he was like, yeah, here's my new stuff or whatever. You know, we were always like wanted to hear you. Or I was always wanted to hear his and Madlib's stuff, and he played it, and I wasn't sure if it was like supposed to be a beat tape for rappers or what it was supposed to be, but it was, to me, it just sounded like the songs were full, finished songs, and I said, we should put this out like as it is, and he's like, I'm with it, you know.
Chris always said, you know, it's going to be a way for, you know, him to get his beats out there again, and, you know, people are going to realize that, yeah, he's sick, but, you know, he's not out for the count. You know, he's still making incredible beats because they're just getting shared around the internet, and no one really knows how great they are. We're going to master them, mix them, and all that. And he took that project really seriously. I mean, he was editing stuff in the hospital all the time. You know, he might have even made some of the beats there, but I kind of doubt it. You know, he had the portable turntable, and he had the 45s and all that. But I don't recall him ever sampling this stuff. I just remember him always with the laptop editing this stuff on Pro Tools. When he turned in that record, he gave me 2 CDs. I still have one of them. One of them I brought to production, one of them I kept at my house. And it's the original Donuts as he made it, because Jeff went and edited Donuts. That was, you know, a funny story in and of itself, but Jeff had to extend it because it was hella short. It was like 20 minutes long or something like that. And when I heard all of that together in the way that he actually wanted it to come out, I was like, fuck me, man. This last couple years has just completely flipped music on its head once again. Like, there's no way that anybody's going to know what to do with this. It was so astronomically different than everything that everybody had tried to do with that source material.
If Donuts is like his most deceptive album because it sounds so simple and so easy. I mean, if you were just to listen to it at like the most basic level, it's you know, basically soul loops, you know, but if you were to go back and try to redo some of the stuff that he did, it's like there's so much more to it than meets the eye. And then, you know, he threw in all these amazing hidden messages in there, here and there, and it was so complicated and so complex and so well thought out, but it was still, you know, anybody could get down to it, you know.
When I first heard it, I think with a lot of us, you know, when I first heard it, I was like, man, this shit is crazy. It's real minimal, like just sticking to the records, kind of almost like edits of the original joints. But when he passed, you know, with a lot of us, the shit took on a whole new meaning. Like, was he really that nuts to, like, basically make a goodbye letter? You know, that shit is like saying goodbye.
For artists like this, you know, like death at the height of your powers is one of those things where it's like, you know, to find a full stop in the middle of the sentence is one of those things that just makes people think about things in a whole different way. And to put mortality into the mix in terms of your art, yeah, I mean, listen to Donuts, you know. Do you really think the dude didn't know what was going to happen? He fully knew what was going to happen.
So a lot of the original tracks that he sampled, if you listen to the lyrics and like the song titles, it's kind of like, it's really dark. Like, it's a lot of speaking of about death and even like the snippets that he put on top and the way he cut the records to make them sound like something else, like Jadakiss, cutting on Jadakiss and making it sound like he's saying, is death real? When he was saying, like, is that real? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. He consistently, like, with each project he ever produced, it would crack your head. Like, he's one of a kind. There's no one else that could basically, you know, say, I'm out of here. I know that my time has come, and I want to express that to you through this project.
Yeah, all these cats out here owe it to Dilla, dog. All these cats. I mean, they found their own niche now. A lot of these cats he's been gone for, you know, a couple years now. So it's like, the teacher is gone, so you gotta find your own style still, you know what I mean? But when he was around, and if he was still around, motherfuckers would still be biting whatever new shit he would be doing right now.
While he was alive, he changed so many people's lives as it is, you know, like all my time with him, I always felt like I'm in the presence of a living legend.
I tell a lot of people the first time I heard Jay shit is pretty much just like the first time I heard hip-hop. I was like, I don't need to listen to pop music or any of that shit on the radio. This is what I want to do.
LA certainly, like I said, had a reverence for Dilla that probably didn't exist in Detroit. I mean, I see it with Stone's Throw all the time. You know, we go do a gig in LA, and I'm not saying that it's bad, because we'll do great gigs in LA, but you show up in Paris and there's a line down the block, and I'm sure that, you know, Dilla saw a lot of that in LA when he first moved out, but the thing with Dilla in LA is that, you know, it persisted. It just never stopped. You know, like, people just had love for him wherever he went. Because he was, you know, the great JD, and, you know, he decided to spend some time in this city with us, and, you know, we're all better for it.